Software Workflow. Hello dear friends, I'm glad to welcome you to our next lesson. And of course, I understand that you can't wait to start doing some real work in the program, but before we get to that, let's prepare well. And the preparation will consist in preparing a comfortable workspace for ourselves. You understand? If there is house on your panel, then working on it will be not pleasant and not very convenient. Now we are going to set up the software for ourselves. So let's get started. Last time we talked about palettes. These are special mobile windows that make your work more comfortable. Imagine that you are an artist and you have a palette of colors in front of you. You choose the right shades. This is similar to working with Photoshop, where you choose the settings and characteristics you need. It depends on what the direction of your work is. So you choose one or another set of palettes. And now we'll talk about this in more detail. If you look at the top menu, then on the window tab, you'll see a list of all the palettes offered by the program. Those palettes that you have opened will be ticked. For example, I would like to have the layers palette open. I click on it and now it has opened. Here we see the layers palette. If we go back to the window tab again, we will see we have a check mark opposite the word layers. Thus, we can choose the palettes that we need at the moment. But what about if we are just starting our work and don't even know what palettes we may need, because we are not very familiar with what the program can offer for us? There is a certain set of workspaces already prepared in advance in the program, among which you can choose. And of course, you can create your own workspace. Let's see what it looks like. For example, we go here. Here are all the workspaces created by you or by default. Click on the arrow. We see a window in which the workspaces that are currently available are indicated. By default, we have the main workspace. It is a set of palettes that, according to Photoshop developers, are most commonly used and most suitable for a large number of users. When the program is launched the first time, we will see this workspace, exactly this set of palettes. And you can look at these palettes here, open them, get to know them a little. As we study the various functions of the program, we will get acquainted with those palettes that correspond to a particular lesson. Let's now see which workspaces are installed in the program by default. Each of them implies some separate direction of Photoshop. For example, creating 3D, working with graphics, the internet, animation, drawing, and photography. Let's look at an example of drawing. In general, drawing in Photoshop is a very exciting activity, and let's see what possibilities Photoshop offers in the form of palettes. So we choose drawing, and the first thing we see is a palette with paints, on which we can choose different colors. There is also a palette in which we can choose different brushes and customize them as we want. This is similar to a huge set of brushes with different textures, shapes, and sizes. It can be wet, dry, or calligraphic ones that we can use as we draw. But this palette will be more active if we use the brush tool, which is just connected with the work of this palette. Here we can be a real artist who has a palette with paints on one side and a jar with brushes on the other side. There are also other palettes that you may definitely need when drawing. For example, such a palette as layers. It is useful in general in any case, whatever you are doing. So this palette is included in all major workspaces. And when you create your own work, you will definitely need it too. Well, for example, we can see the Navigator palette, which we talked about, and some others. Let's take a look at the workspace that is offered for the photographer. We choose photography and we have completely different palettes that photographers use when editing photos. Here we can adjust contrast, levels, curves. There are also tools that allow to play with brightness and contrast. We can work with a color tone. With saturation, you can take a photo in black and white, change the color, do a lot of things what photographers do when editing photos. As you can see, palettes take up some space on the screen, especially if your monitor is not big enough. It can be interfaced with your work on the image a little, because it sometimes covers most of the workspace. So you can click on these arrows and minimize the palettes so that they open up to you as many opportunities as possible to view your image. If this doesn't seem enough to you, you can press the magic tab key. Then I'm pressing it now. And in this case, both palettes and tools disappear. You have maximum opportunities to see your images. And in this case, you can work using keyboard shortcuts. By the way, I advise you to start learning them right now. Well, you can return everything to its original state by pressing the tab key again. Also, you can remove from your monitor not only the tool palettes, but also the upper command menu. To do this, you need to go here. I will not choose this parameter now, because the frame of the displayed area will disappear outside the recording area and you will not see it anyway. Or you can double click on the F key to remain only your image. It will turn out something like this. You will have an image on the entire monitor, and you'll be able to see it in all its glory. Pressing the F key again will return everything to its original state. Let's go back to Workspaces. Now I open the main workspace and I want to show you something. Suppose for some reason we took and deleted some elements of the workspace. Well, somehow we took and deleted them. We no longer have them. And in order to get them back, you need to go here and select Reset the main workspace. And we return to about the same as it was at the very beginning. By the way, there are also sections such as training in which you can look and find some interesting information. And now let's try to create our own workspace. To do this, I go to the window and check the boxes opposite those palettes that I think I will need. For example, I need layers, because it is always necessary. I need history. Let's assume that I need only these two palettes, not others. Then I just close them. I click on the cross. So I have only two palettes left. If you move them to each other, then they will stick. I can minimize them to make such a panel. Let's create a workspace. First we select New Workspace, enter a name and click Save. And if we look, we have a new workspace. If several people use Photoshop, everyone can keep their workspace under their own name. And look, I go to the photo. Here we have the same settings that we saw earlier. I go to my workspace and I have the panel that I created. Why are there three icons here? Because the layers palette always goes with channels and contours. Let's move it to a more convenient place, for example here. This is how you can create a workspace for yourself, and the palettes you need will always be at your fingertips. I recommend that you practice and do this as a homework. Create your own workspace. Get to know a little about other workspaces. And that's all for today. AIM School was with you. See you in other lessons.